your whole face feels like it's cooking inside that helmet. All of your skin, it's almost raw to the touch. So it's so hot, and it feels like, it just, I can think about it right now, like feeling it on my cheeks. It was extremely hot in Nashville. I did not envy the position anybody was in, from the spotters to the drivers in the cars. That is about as miserable conditions as you'll find yourself in a race car. And TJ and those guys, TJ apparently was wearing a cool suit.
Yeah, what'd you think of
shirt.
that?
I want to know how it works. So, has he got the same that the driver has?
I think it was. Is that what
it's
the broadcast
very
said?
similar, yeah.
How did he power the box?
How do the drivers power it?
It hooks up to the battery in the car, dude.
Oh.
It goes through the alternator and all that.
That's why Denny and them were having voltage issues. Because then they told him to turn his cool shirt off.
Oh.
Oof.
Maybe he brought a car battery up there with him. Who knows?
I don't know.
What'd you think of what'd you think of TJ wearing a cool shirt?
Damn right, I'd wear one if I
would
could.
too.
Yeah. Watch it, man. At some of these other events, there'll be more spotters doing it. They'll try to hide it. They'll try to not let nobody know they're doing it because they don't want any of the attention. But TJ don't give a I think it's fine. And I like Brad Keselowski's answer. He wants everybody to be on top of their game at all times. If it helps TJ do his job better, then he wants him to do it. I thought that was great.
It was freaking hot. Like I simply standing outside for a long period of time, let alone in the sun, was brutal this past weekend. I was talking to a few drivers, and some of them were saying, like, there's no way to actually describe how hot it is inside a race car. So I'm going to ask you to do that. Yeah. What is that like?
At the risk of sounding like a complainer, I begin to wonder if there is a point when we would need to do something to this is too hot. Like, I think a race like that in Nashville, that is nothing that I think we should be putting the drivers, the fans, the teams, the spotters. I don't think that it's necessary that we put them through that situation. Now, what could you do? I mean, other than you move the race into the later in the day, run it at night, whatever. I don't know if that's even really possible, right? But we've got to be there. I bet you there are some conversations at the very early stages, low-level conversations in the NASCAR building about these type of situations where the heat is just too intense. We had a race at Chicago where it's 150 degrees inside the race cars.
That was in 19, right? 2019.
I think it's it's like my first or second year in the booth.
I was there for that. That was probably the hottest day I've ever been at a racetrack before.
So I think that we're not maybe there just yet, but this is right on the threshold of maybe we need to think about having like an alternate plan in these situations where we can still run the race, but we can save everybody a lot of the abuse that they're going to have to go through. And not everybody is the same when it comes to heat tolerance. Not everybody handles heat as well or as good as others, right? And so just by their, some people struggle more than others, I guess, in the heat. And so we just really don't want to find out. We don't want to find out what's too far. Does that make sense?
Right.
We we don't need to put ourselves in a situation where we learn that, this is too much. This is too hot. This is the drivers being in a car that's 150 degrees for 3.5 hours is detrimental to their health in some way, or somebody suffers an event, right? Or somebody suffers some sort of medical emergency. We don't need to get to that point. And I think we're getting close. I really do. And so I don't think we're there yet, but I think, if we're racing at some of these certain racetracks and some of these certain environments during certain parts of the year, you could put yourself in a situation where we may see record temps inside the cars. And what is dangerously hot? That'd be a good question for a doctor to tell us. Like, where would we get into the danger zone, with the drivers? And let's try to protect them from, because they're going to get in there.
No matter what.
They're going to do it.
Yeah.
And let's try to make sure we're protecting the drivers as well as we can. And I feel like that those conditions this past Sunday were as intense as we need to be fooling with. But to describe it, to answer your question that you asked me, it's like I've been on fire and I've been in fire. That is like a million bee stings. It's 700 and something degrees instantly. Just your whole body feels like a million bees are stinging you all at the same time. The heat inside, a car that's 150 degrees. You ever got your face down close to the stove, the burner on the stove,
or like the oven?
And
yeah.
And you can only, or say you're trying to turn a knob on a grill, or something like it's getting near something like that type of a heat source that's really, really hot, and you can only keep your hand there or your face there for a few moments before it starts to feel like you're getting almost sunburnt, right? It feels like that. Your whole face feels like it's cooking inside that helmet. All of your skin, it's almost raw to the touch. It's so hot, and it feels like, it just, I can think about it right now, like feeling it on my cheeks. Like you didn't even want to touch your face because it felt like it would hurt to touch it because it felt like it was like super severe sunburn. Your core gets really hot, but they have these cool vests. They do help. Under those certain conditions at Nashville, a lot of the things that we have inside the cars fail to work at that temperature. So a lot of people aren't really getting much of a benefit from the cool vests at Nashville, but they probably do save the drivers a ton of abuse. But you have to make the tough part about it is in a lot of situations you have to choose. We used to run a cool box into the helmet. That worked really nice, but the air was only about 10 to 20 degrees cooler than what was actually outside the helmet. But it was better. And then they come out with a vest, and the vest was amazing. The vest was way cooler, way better than having the helmet, but you couldn't have both. You wanted both, but you couldn't have both because of the amps that it draws. It's too much amperage. And the teams only want to allow, as minimal as possible in terms of drawing amps from fans and brake fans or B coolers, tire coolers, whatever you want to, all the things going on in the car. And so they'd only allow the driver, like he has a certain amount of amps that he has to use, and you can only fit certain things into that box. And so that was I don't envy that. I got that race at Langley coming up, the Hampton Heat, and it's only 100 or 200 lap race, but it's going to be miserable. And our late model stock cars don't have any of the, heat shields and all of the things on the race car that can actually help tame down the temperature inside the cockpit. We're going to go up there and practice in the heat of the day, and it is going to suck. I'm just not even excited about that part. I'm looking forward to driving the race and all that, man, but the heat is going to be miserable. Bristol shouldn't be too bad. Bristol last year was actually kind of fun in September. I don't know. Shouldn't be too hot. Usually temperature inside the car is not that big of an issue. It's uncomfortable. But it's weird because 150 degrees in Chicago or in Nashville is terrible, right? You can go to Michigan and it'll be 125 or 130 and it feels just as bad because of how humid. And it's so damn thick and humid in there. And you're thinking, surely to God it's 175 degrees in this car. And they'll stick a gun in there, a heat gun, and it's 130 degrees. And you're like, God, this feels worse than Nashville. You know, it just depends on where you are and the time of year and all that stuff. It can be pretty brutal. Damn.